Take a slow, deep breath. Close your eyes for just a moment longer than usual. Let the world fade. Feel the quiet warmth of a Sunday morning kitchen, wrapping around you like an old, familiar embrace. Sunlight slipping lazily through thin, faded curtains that have seen decades of stories. An old oven humming low and steady, like a heartbeat you almost forgot. The gentle, intoxicating smell of cinnamon and cardamom rising slowly, filling every corner, curling into your chest, wrapping around memories you didn't even know were still alive inside you. For more than 40 years, that exact smell was part of Ammi. Every single Sunday, no matter if the sky was bright blue or heavy gray, no matter if her heart felt full or quietly breaking, she rose before dawn, tied her dupatta, and began. She never once wrote her tea bread recipe down. No lists, no measuring cups, no careful steps on paper. Her hands simply knew every tender fold of the dough, every patient press of her palm, every long silent wait while it rose in the warm corner by the window. The loaf was humble. A golden crust with one honest crack running across the top like a smile line. Inside, soft, warm, impossibly comforting. But what lived inside that bread was something far deeper, far heavier than flour and spice. Something no one fully understood until it was too late. When she left us forever, we opened the drawer she always kept locked with love. There it waited, her old cookbook. Pages worn velvet soft from years of flour-dusted fingers. Margins alive with her small, careful handwriting, words she had never dared speak aloud to any of us. Those weren't just cooking notes. They were secrets. Quiet, aching love letters written in faint pencil. The way she whispered, "I'm still here," long after the house had grown too silent to hear her voice. But the thing she poured into those margins, the loneliness she carried alone for decades, the love she buried so deep it almost disappeared, they still cut when I read them now. Stay right here with me, because the very last note she wrote, the one that shattered us all, it will break your heart in the softest, most unforgettable way. You'll feel it in your throat. Promise you won't look away. Ammi was born in a small village just outside Multan, where time moved slower. Thick mud walls that held the fierce Punjab sun at bay. An open courtyard where chickens scratched lazy circles in the dust. Smoke drifting upward from the clay tandoor like quiet prayers no one but the sky heard. Her mother taught her without ever raising her voice, just steady hands guiding smaller ones. Sift the flour until it floats down light as fresh snow. Knead the dough until it breathes warm and alive under your palms, soft like a sleeping child. Listen to the fire. When it whispers instead of roars, that's when it's ready for the bread. In the hardest years, when monsoons failed, crops withered, and the granary echoed empty, Ammi learned the true magic wasn't in plenty. It was in making do. A stolen pinch of cardamom from the neighbor's tree at twilight. A begged cup of thick buffalo milk carried home in trembling hands. One single egg, beaten and stretched thin to feed 6 hungry mouths, turning scarcity into something that tasted like enough. One orange sunset evening, her mother paused, wiped sweat from her brow, and said so quietly it almost got lost in the wind, "Beta, real love doesn't shout from rooftops. Sometimes it's the extra need when your own heart feels hollow. The tiny piece you hide away for tomorrow, even when tomorrow feels impossible." Those words didn't just land. They sank into Ammi's bones, into every motion her hands would make for the next 60 years. I still see her clearly, me as a small child on the kitchen floor, watching flour dust her cheeks like gentle snow. She stared out the window at nothing and murmured, "Some things, beta, you never write down. You live them every single day. And you pray, you just pray, someone tastes the love before it goes cold forever." But what happened when she carried that sacred promise into a new life, a life that would slowly, quietly try to steal it away piece by piece? The heartbreak that followed, it's deeper than you imagine. Hold on, the next part will change how you see every quiet moment. Marriage brought change like a sudden dust storm. A new, crowded city. A small flat with one tiny window staring at endless noise and gray dust. A hissing gas stove replaced the breathing clay tandoor. Abba G left before dawn for the mill, returned after dark bent under invisible weight. Not cruel, just worn thin, like old cloth washed too many times. Words between them grew sparse, then rare. But Ammi turned that cramped kitchen into her only voice. Every evening, without fail, the tea bread waited on the chipped table. Half for their simple dinner under the single bulb, half wrapped tenderly in a clean cloth for his lunch tin tomorrow. She never asked if he noticed the extra warmth, never waited for thanks or praise. She simply sat across from him, poured steaming chai with steady hands, and watched him eat, offering her entire day in that one long, quiet gaze. On nights when his cough rattled through the thin walls like distant thunder, she slipped in extra cardamom without a word. As if spice alone could fight sickness, could hold back time. Have you ever loved someone so completely that words felt useless? So you poured everything into small, repeated acts instead? Have you ever watched someone eat what you made and felt your whole heart ride on whether they took another bite? She trusted that daily rhythm, that bread, that chai, that silence, would keep them woven together forever. But what if the silence wasn't just between them? What if it was quietly growing inside her own chest too? The truth of what she carried alone. It's coming next, and it will ache in places you didn't expect. Then the children arrived, one after another, like sudden, welcome rain after years of cracked earth. First a boy with eyes like Abaji's. Then a girl who laughed exactly like Ammi used to before life quieted her. More followed. Rooms that once echoed with emptiness now rang with small feet, spilled milk, fever cries at midnight, and the endless music of growing life. Laughter one moment, tears the next, school uniforms to iron, books to buy, fees that climbed faster than the neem tree outside the window. Abba G's cough deepened, no longer just winter's guest, but a permanent shadow in his chest. Hospital corridors became familiar. Bills arrived like stern relatives who refused to leave. Savings vanished faster than sugar in hot chai. Through it all, Ammi never stopped. After the children slept, she sat under one bare bulb that flickered like it was tired too, needle darting in and out of cloth, mending school shirts, turning old dupattas into something usable again. In the corner, always, the dough rose quietly under a damp cloth, patient, stubborn hope that refused to die, even when everything else felt like it might. The tea bread became more than breakfast or dinner. It turned into medicine. Slices soaked in warm milk with a whisper of turmeric for feverish little foreheads pressed against her chest. A small piece crumbled with honey for Abba G's mornings. When breathing hurt more than waking up. When money ran dry before the month did. She stretched one loaf across 3 days. Thinner slices, but always with the same tender care. As if each crumb carried her promise. We will make it through. She learned to adjust the recipe the way a mother learns to adjust dreams, silently, without complaint, without letting the children see the cost. Less sugar when arguments drifted from the children's room like smoke. A heavier hand of cardamom when one came home too quiet. Eyes red from schoolyard fights or whispered rejections. Extra knead on days when her own back ached from bending over the sewing machine until 2 a.m. She never said she was tired. Never admitted the fear that woke her at 3 a.m. Staring into the dark ceiling. Counting rupees that weren't there. Wondering if she was enough. If her hands could hold everything together one more sunrise. Have you ever carried a family so completely on your shoulders that you forgot what it felt like to set the weight down, even for a moment? Have you ever looked at your children, your partner, your home, and felt love and terror in the exact same breath? Every single loaf held her deepest, unspoken prayer. Please, let this be enough. Let this warmth keep us stitched together just one more day. But what happens when one more day stretches into decades of quiet endurance? When the children grow and begin to leave? When the house starts echoing again? But this time with absence instead of cries? The emptiness that settled in next, it didn't just change the kitchen. It changed everything she had spent her life building. One by one, the children left. Not in anger, not in haste, but in the natural way life pulls people forward. A son got a job in Lahore, then Karachi. A daughter married and moved to Islamabad with dreams bigger than the flat could hold. Another went abroad for studies. Promising calls that grew shorter each month. Grandchildren arrived in photos first, then video glimpses, then long silences between visits. The flat that once overflowed with noise became vast and hollow. Footsteps no longer raced down the hallway. The balcony collected dry leaves and dust on forgotten flower pots that Ammi used to tend so carefully. The single bulb still flickered above the kitchen table, but now it lit only one chair. Yet Sunday never stopped coming. Every week, without exception, she rose at the same hour, tied her faded apron with hands that trembled just enough to notice if you looked closely, lit the oven, measured nothing, kneaded slowly, deliberately, as if the rhythm could summon the past back into the room. She baked one single loaf, the same golden crust, the same honest crack, the same warm cardamom heart. She sliced one small piece for herself and sat at the table alone, chewed slowly, eyes closed, tasting memories more than bread. The rest she wrapped with the same clean cloth she'd used for decades, careful folds, gentle tucks, and placed it in the freezer. For when they come, she whispered to the empty chairs, to the quiet walls, to no one. In those long, solitary Sundays, she began to write in the margins of her old cookbook. Not full recipes anymore. Not instructions, just small, raw truths, the kind only the flow, and the silence would ever understand. Extra knead today. The house is too quiet without their laughter bouncing off the walls. Added more elaichi. A photo of the little one came in the post, but no hug, no sticky fingers on my dupatta. Baked anyway. Bread waits better than people do. It never forgets to rise. Less sugar this time. Arguments from last phone call still echo in my ears. Made it warmer. Winter is coming, and no one will be here to share the heat. Her handwriting grew shakier with each passing month. The notes became shorter, more honest, more heartbreaking. And then came the very last one, written with a hand that could barely hold the pencil steady. If you ever find this, my dear ones, forgive your Ammi for staying so quiet all these years. I thought the bread would speak louder than my voice ever could. I thought if I kept baking, kept waiting, kept loving in the only way I knew, you would feel it even when I couldn't say it. I was wrong, but I never stopped hoping. Have you ever waited for someone so long that waiting became its own kind of home? Have you ever loved in silence until the silence was all that remained? She closed the book one final time, gently, as if not to wake the words inside. The oven clicked off. The kitchen grew still. But what happened when, years later, we finally opened that drawer and read those pages? When we saw, for the first time, the full weight of everything she had carried alone. The discovery, it didn't just bring tears. It brought a kind of regret that settles deep in your bones and never quite leaves. The story reaches its quiet, shattering peak next. Stay with me, because the final truths she left behind, the ones we found too late, they will make you want to pick up the phone or light your own oven right now. She left us on an ordinary Tuesday morning, in late autumn. No dramatic signs, no long farewell, just peaceful sleep that slipped into something deeper, something final. The neighbor found her still in bed, the faint scent of elaichi lingering on the pillow, like she'd just stepped out to check the dough. We gathered in shock. Children who had become adults scattered across cities and countries, now rushing back with suitcases and guilt. We folded her dupattas that still carried the soft trace of cardamom and years of quiet care. We packed away the chipped plates she touched every single day. We sorted photographs where her smile looked tired but never absent. Then someone opened the drawer she always kept half hidden under stacks of old saris. There it was, her old cookbook, waiting quietly like it had been expecting us all along. We carried it to the kitchen table, the same table where so many loaves had waited, and opened it slowly, almost afraid of what the pages might say. The handwriting started neat, familiar from childhood birthday cards. But as the years went on, it grew smaller, shakier, more urgent. Ingredients were scribbled loosely, crossed out, rewritten with care. Measurements faded into notes that had nothing to do with baking. Page after page of raw, quiet truth poured out. Less spice today. Heart feels too heavy after the phone call that ended too soon. Extra knead. Missing the way the children used to fight over the heel piece. Saved a slice. Tomorrow might bring someone home. It hasn't yet. Baked anyway. Even if no one comes. The smell fills the empty rooms for a little while. More elaichi. Winter is colder without voices at the table. We turn pages in silence, tears falling onto the paper, blurring pencil lines that had waited years to be read. And then the final page, the one that shattered what was left of us, written in faint, trembling script, dated just weeks before she left. My dear ones, if you are reading this, then the house is finally quiet in a way I never wanted. I never asked for big gifts. I never needed crowded visits or expensive things. All I ever wanted was Sunday mornings, your voices filling this kitchen again, your hands breaking bread with mine, your laughter mixing with the smell of cardamom rising from the oven. I thought if I kept baking, kept waiting, kept loving in silence, you would understand without me having to say the words. I was afraid that speaking would make the longing louder, would make the absence hurt more. So I let the bread do the talking. I let it carry what my voice couldn't. Forgive me for staying so quiet. Forgive me for not calling more, for not saying, I miss you out loud. I was trying to protect us all from the pain of goodbye that was always coming. The only recipe that ever truly mattered was this. Sit together sometimes. Break bread together. Look each other in the eyes and stay a little longer than you planned. That was always enough. That was everything. With all the love I never quite knew how to say. Your Ammi. We found the very last frozen loaf in the back of the freezer, wrapped exactly as she always did. We warmed it in the oven that still hummed like it remembered her. Then we sat on the kitchen floor like we were small again. No one spoke. We just ate in complete silence. Slow bites. Tasting regret. Tasting love we had taken for granted. Tasting time we thought would never run out. It tasted like cinnamon. Like cardamom. Like every unspoken, I love you, she had ever kneaded into the dough. That moment changed how we see every quiet act of love. It taught us that the deepest things are often said without words at all. Behind every deep wrinkle on an old face hides a lifetime most people never bother to ask about. 1,000 quiet Sundays. A recipe no one thought to learn while there was still time. A love that was baked into every loaf, every slice, every crumb, waiting patiently to be tasted, noticed, remembered. Ammi never asked for monuments. She never wanted her name in stories or songs. She just wanted the table full again. Voices overlapping. Hands reaching for the same warm piece of bread. The simple sound of someone saying, Ammi, this is perfect, even once. If your grandmother or mother or anyone who ever fed you with more than just food is still here, stop what you're doing right now. Not tomorrow. Not this weekend. Today. Go sit with her if you can. Watch her hands move. Listen to the silence between her words. That's where the real stories live. Ask her how she makes that one dish you always loved. Taste it while she's still the one making it. Tell her, out loud, that you see her. That you feel the love she poured in when no one was looking. If she's already gone, like mine is, then do this instead this week. Light your oven. Find a simple recipe. Maybe even try to recreate her tea bread if you remember the smell. Add a little extra spice. Knead a little longer than the instructions say. Let the dough rise in a warm corner while you think about her. Think about the Sundays you shared and the ones you missed. When it comes out golden, with that honest crack on top, sit down alone if you have to. Take a slow bite. Let it taste like memory. Let it taste like regret if it needs to. But mostly, let it taste like love that outlasted everything else. Because the smallest acts, the ones no one photographs, no one posts about, echo the longest. They travel farther than we realize. They outlive us all. Ammi's bread wasn't just bread. It was her way of saying, I'm here. I love you. I'll keep waiting. Even when the waiting hurt. Even when the house was empty. Even when the words never came. So the next time you smell cinnamon or cardamom drifting from a kitchen, pause. Breathe it in. Remember someone who loved you in silence. And if you can, make sure the people you love don't have to love you in silence too. 1 year has passed since we opened that old cookbook and tasted the last frozen loaf. The kitchen still smells faintly of cardamom on Sundays, not because anyone bakes every week, but because we've started trying. We gathered again this past Sunday, not out of obligation, but because something pulled us back. The table was fuller than it had been in years. A son flew in from Karachi. A daughter brought her little one, who reached for the warm bread with tiny, curious hands. We didn't talk much at first. We just broke the loaf, the one I attempted to recreate from memory, and passed pieces around. It wasn't perfect. The crust cracked a little too wide. The spice was a touch heavier than hers. But when we bit into it, we tasted her. We tasted the extra knead on lonely days, the quiet hope in every rise, the love she never stopped giving, even when the house echoed empty. In that moment, the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was warm. It was full. We laughed about old stories. We cried a little, quietly, like she used to. And for the first time in a long time, the chairs didn't feel too big. Ammi's recipe wasn't lost after all. It just waited for us to finally listen, to finally show up, to finally bake it together. So if there's one thing I've learned in this year since she left, it's that love doesn't end when someone goes. It lingers in the dough. It rises again in new hands. It waits patiently, like bread in a warm corner, until we're ready to taste it. Bake something this Sunday. Call someone who misses you. Fill a table, even if it's small. Because the real recipe, the one she never wrote down, was never about the bread. It was about showing up, one quiet morning at a time. Thank you again for being here through every tear and every memory. If Ammi's story stirred something in you, share it. Pass it on. Keep the love rising. Until the next gentle story, hold your people close and never let the oven go cold.